Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, I am honored to welcome two remarkable guests, Debbi McCune and Bill Kelly from Living Well with Dementia Sisters. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. You know, I want to really just kind of start with, and I'll let, Debbi or Bill, either one of you can answer. I just welcomed you as being from Living Well with Dementia Sisters. For viewers and listeners who may not know what that is, would you mind explaining what Living Well with Dementia Sisters is briefly?
Bill, why don't you go ahead?
No, Debbi, go ahead. You're the leader.
Oh, you're so funny. So Living Well with Dementia is a nonprofit that we started a little bit over a year ago, just about a year and a half ago. And really the focus of it at the heart of our mission is to empower those people who have been diagnosed with some form of dementia and their care partners to still lead a fulfilling and enriching life, and to provide services through support groups and educational opportunities as they go down their path. So all of the family, and we know that we're a very transient, very mobile society. So oftentimes adult children and grandchildren are in another part of the country and sometimes even another part of the world, where we can bring them together through one-on-one guidance and really help the family have an open conversation and go down this path as easy as they possibly can.
Okay, yeah. Bill, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think that the fact that we're breaking the isolation barrier with Living Well with Dementia is a really key aspect of it. And so that's a important part of what we're doing right now.
Wonderful. I want to kind of pose this question to both of you, and, either one can take the lead and then the other can reply after. But why don't you share what inspired each of you to become involved in dementia advocacy and ultimately to create and lead Living Well with Dementia Sisters?
Okay, I'll jump in. Since turning it over to Bill wasn't working quite so well. Darn it. So my journey into dementia advocacy is deeply personal. My husband was diagnosed with mixed dementia a little over 9 years ago. And before that, I witnessed the impact of the disease on both of my in-laws and my father. And these experiences led me to become a community educator with the with the Alzheimer's Association. And I've been serving in that role for about 5 years, as well as a community advocate for about 3 years. And by nature, I'm a listener. I'm someone who likes to fix things and look for solutions. And through my work, and especially during our first Living Well event, we heard firsthand from the local community, the people who attended, the struggles that their families were facing, and saw a lack of local support here in our wonderful little community of sisters. And our population is a little over 3,500 people, and we know that roughly 40% of our population is 65 and older. So we recognize that we're a community that is going to have a high likelihood of dementia diagnoses. And yet we had no support groups. There are limited resources and very few services tailored to those who have been diagnosed with this and their care partner. And so just filling that gap as somebody who strives to look for solutions, Bill and the other gentleman, Sandy Riley, the three of us who co-founded Living Well with Dementia, that's what really drove the vision for bringing Living Well with Dementia about.
Yeah. Bill, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it was interesting when we, and the reason how I met Debbi, she moved in next door to me, and I'm a Rotarian, and I asked Debbi, why don't you join Rotary? And I was also in charge of the Speakers Bureau for the Rotary Club. And so we had Debbi speak in regards to Alzheimer's to the group. And our group is demographically the same characteristic of the town. It's mid-50s and above. And there was a great interest in it. And that's when Sandy and Debbie and myself pooled together to say, hey, let's do an event.
Yeah.
And this was in June of 2023. And we had close to 60 people showed up to the event, where we had Alzheimer's Association, a couple of partners in care, some of our local partners talk about what we're doing. And we questioned afterwards, is this a viable opportunity in the community? And so we did a survey. And so we reached out to the community, did a survey, and what we determined in that is that there's an overwhelming need for it right now. We looked at what their needs are, and the number one need was education and understanding what's available out there. People are looking for respite care, transportation. They were looking for legal support services. These are all the people that were struggling in their daily lives to deal with dementia. And we said, okay, this is a viable organization to start in the community. And that's sort of we went by our gut, and then we went by some facts, which helped us grow in the market.
That's wonderful. Bill, I want to kind of stay with you for a moment. Can you share some of the programs and services that you're offering with Living Well with Dementia Sisters, and really how they help these families navigate the dementia journey?
Sure. When we started off, we were focusing broadly on stopping dementia or dealing with it. So we looked at the 4 pillars or 4 ways that you can slow down dementia and help yourself. So nutrition, cognitive, isolation. Those are the things we're working with to identify that. So we initially started programs with dementia and their care partners, dementia people and their care partners. We did a physical therapy session where we had a group of 12 people in a room once a week going through and doing some physical activity together, led by an instructor, which was very valuable because it keeps people active. And then when we started to drill down as what was really needed was our care partner support groups. And so we started one, and I think, Debbie, I always ask her this question, but I think we've done close to 60 of them since we started. So we're meeting on a regular basis. And what we found, the care partner support group is on an individual basis, is probably the most important thing that we're doing. Let the care partner get into a room, speak about how they're feeling, share their experiences with other people, and then all of a sudden, some of that weight of being a care partner goes away. So that was just the support groups. Since then, we've done 20 educational seminars where we get into a room, and sometimes we have 20 people in there, sometimes we have 2, but we know that everybody that's in that room is going to be affected by what we talk about at them. We've done a community resource fair where we brought in 23 different care medical providers in the area to get into one area where we could support with a fair, and it was attended by close to 70 people in our town of 3,500 people. That's a big number. Yeah. And then really, I think we sort of smiled the most on this is the Alzheimer's Association has hosted a mini McGinty conference here in Sisters last year. And we had close to 80 people at that for the half-day event, which was the most that they'd seen in any of their Oregon trips. And then we're honored again this year in May. We're going to be hosting another mini McGinty conference here in Sisters. So it's driving the message out, and those are the programs that we're working with.
That's incredible, Bill. Debbie, I want to come back to you. And, you initially said that I think you said 8 years ago, your husband was diagnosed with mixed dementia diagnosis. How has your personal experience shaped the way that Living Well with Dementia Sisters is supporting families and individuals in your community living with dementia?
Well, having lived it firsthand with my husband and then my father and both my in-laws, it's really shaped me in understanding how much need there is for communication from the medical field. Mm-hmm. And my husband is older than I am, and I think that this is significant because it helps me as I'm relating to those care partners that are attending our support groups. He's 78. He's 17 years older than I am. So I'm younger compared to him. And I have the energy and the technical ability to go out and do the research, to take it upon myself, to educate myself. And I feel for a lot of our care partners who are in their 80s and their early 90s that don't have that same skill set, if you will. And so they're really left without any guidance. And I truly understand. I'm not blaming the medical profession. I understand that they can't give specific guidance because everybody's path is so very individual, but there's no guidance. And that's the frustrating part for me. And having to figure this out daily, being the advocate for my husband and pushing through when I'm seeing issues that I'm having to advocate for him when we go to the doctor appointments. So I've seen it from that perspective, but also the trauma. I had amazing in-laws and I love them to pieces. But I saw the trauma from not talking about it, from denial. And so until you get to a place of acceptance, you can't meet the person where they're at. And that makes this path so much harder. So for me, it's those experiences that really give that insight when I'm either drafting and creating the educational presentation that I'm going to deliver on a variety of topics, or I'm facilitating a support group. Simply even just doing one-on-one guidance with the people the families that I'm meeting with, that has helped me help them. And it just comes from that personal experience.
Well, and I always feel like the best things come from personal experience. I've shared this, many times in the past, but like for myself, our family owns a home care company here in Michigan, and we service the bottom half of the state, and we'd go around and, we'd have 6-8 support groups going, resource seminars, healthcare talks, aging in place thing, you name it, to try to get these resources out to the community. And it was only because of COVID that all stopped. Our company continued to operate. And so we're trying to find a way, okay, we need to kind of adapt to the situation. How can we continue to get resources and information out there? And, that was the birth of All Home Care Matters. But for me, my experience was from my father coming to live with my wife and I when we were fairly newlyweds, and not knowing he was even in need of help. He had had surgery. It wasn't dementia or Parkinson's or anything like that. It was a wound he had sustained. And a home health care nurse called us and said, we have your father here. We're concerned he's able to adequately, care for this wound. And none of us would have been able to, because it was on his sacrum. And it's a horrible location to try to manage on your own. Can he come live with you for 2, 3, 4 weeks? And we said, of course. And that 2, 3 weeks or whatever it was ended up being 2.5 years. But never once were we provided the resources, information, or even direction. And I'm pursuing medical school. They don't know what caregiving is, right? And nobody really understood that. Plus, my age at the time, my peers weren't experiencing anything like this. And so we decided, we need to start a company where we send out people that help people like us. And it was because of that lack of information, kind of maybe similar to what you're going through. But my question, Debbie, before I go back to Bill, when you and your husband received that diagnosis, were you given any direction, any resources, any how-to guides or anything for what was to come? Or did you just have to kind of figure it out on your own?
We were not given any information, no guidance. And just for a little bit additional perspective, my husband's a veteran. He was in the Vietnam War, so he's very stoic. That's just his generation.
My dad was in the Marines, and you're singing my song. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You get it. And I love them. I understand that. So to succinctly answer the question, no guidance. We literally have been to 3 different neurologists. We've landed with one that has served us well. But even with all 3 of them, I asked the question specifically, what can we expect? Nobody. The only answer was, I can't answer that. And that's just not good enough. And part of the reason why I say that, and I'm really not, shaming or blaming them. I just feel it begs the bigger conversation, why it's so important to talk about this, because the doctor, I really feel, is going to set the tone. If they're not willing to talk about it, how's that older couple? Typically, there's certainly younger families that are painfully dealing with this as well. But how do they go about it? If that's the tone in which they're starting on this journey, it just doesn't bode well for them, in my opinion. And so that's one of the things, and then I'll be done here, is Bill, Sandy, and I have realized how important it is to have the conversation with the medical community and just starting that conversation simply based on what are their needs. We want to be a resource for them to help them when they are diagnosing this, because oftentimes they don't even want to diagnose it because there's no cure. Okay. So it's unlike a cancer where there's going to be a path forward on what the cure will be. So we want to have that conversation and help them understand we're a resource for them. And when they are diagnosing somebody, having a packet of information that is resource laden, that literally physically goes in their hands with local people that they can contact immediately.
Yeah. You said the word diagnose several times, and that's so true. A good friend of ours who's on the show, and he works in Washington, D.C., and helps to get resources out to families from a very national, federal level. He coined this phrase. He said he didn't make it up, but I always credit him for it. It's called diagnose and adios, because that's what so many families face when they get that diagnosis. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Debbie. Bill, I want to come back to you real quick. You guys have shared, the goal is really to make Sisters Oregon the healthiest small community in the U.S. Can you share what that looks like to you and how living well with Dementia Sisters is going to make that possible?
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned earlier in the podcast about isolation, and we feel that by addressing dementia to start with as something that should be out in the open, it should be something we talk about in the cafes. We should do educational seminars. People should bring their dementia partners with them out into the public and talk about it. So we find that as a real important thing. And the reason why this is it's a little piece that fulfills a bigger need in the community. So we know that if we address this on a small scale, we'll be able to expand into more services on a larger scale to make us a healthier community. If we are able to provide, in the future, we have big plans, and we want to be able to provide some respite care for the care partners. We would like to do more educational outreach. We'd like to do adult daycare. We would like to make this as a bigger part of the community where we can address dementia and other senior health issues. There's an ongoing need, and as you know, people want to age in place. And without a healthy community to support them, people will not be able to age in place successfully.
Absolutely. Debbie, for people listening or watching this right now, and maybe they're just beginning to navigate this journey and they just received a diagnosis, what's one piece of advice that you would offer them that really will help them feel less overwhelmed?
You're going to hear a theme here in our conversation this morning. And really, it is so simple and so hard to do, and that's just talk about it. So again, I'm going back to the analogy. If the doctor makes the diagnosis and just sends them out the door, it's diagnose and adios. And if mom and dad don't talk about it, so I'm just going to use that scenario for instance, then that sets the tone for the children and the grandchildren. Mom and dad aren't talking about it. They don't want to talk about it. We don't want to broach the subject. But if mom and dad, I have seen, there's a few families here locally that I have seen where they come to me, they ask, what do? We have a Zoom meeting with all of the children, the daughter-in-laws, the grandchildren, they're too wee, so it doesn't matter at that point. But we have a conversation. And by doing that, the adult children have reached out to me individually, and I see this family coming together as a cohesive, supportive unit. And it's a mean disease. It sucks, but they really are making the best of it. And because of that, I see that there are joyful times along the way, and they're able to help and support one another. So it really just comes down to the simplicity of talk. Talk to your family, build your support network, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. And that's really, I think that combined with get active in a support group really are the two most important things that they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I go back to Bill here, have you had any, relatively meaningful pieces of feedback, comments, messages, or, moments or success stories during your work so far with Living Well with Dementia Sisters?
Okay, I'll try to get through this without the Kleenex. This, I don't say tritely. Every day, every interaction I have, really, Lance, has been meaningful. And I'm not just giving that lip service. When people come to me and I see like that family I just gave the example of, and they say thank you and they give me a hug, and I just feel a little bit of the weight lifted off their shoulders, that means something to me. When somebody is sitting in a support group, a gentleman just this last week, and he said, I get it. I get it now. And when he says, I get it, that means he can meet his wife where she's at. And that makes his life a little easier because he has more patience. So it's less stressful. And that's meaningful to me. So the lives that we're touching, as Bill said, even if it's only one person, which is very, very, very rare, usually our people that are attending the presentations, we average probably 20 to 35, sometimes as many as 50. But when they're coming up and saying thank you, that really is, so it's heartfelt. They realize that they're not going this alone. And for me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. And, we appreciate all the work you guys are doing and, all of the difference makers out there in this community, because it really does take a community. I don't fault our healthcare professionals, but I would like to see, and I look forward to the day when doctors, nurses, social workers will start identifying ways to offer more resources and support for, the loved one's going to be cared for regardless, but it's really the caregivers, the care partners, the spouses, the family. They're the ones that need that support because they're the ones with the boots on the ground once they leave that doctor's office or that hospital or that nursing home. And they need to know how to navigate this, because it is very overwhelming. Most people don't plan to be a caregiver. They don't anticipate or expect to be a caregiver. So they're not preparing for it. And then all of a sudden that day arrives. So they need all of our support as much as we can offer them. So thank you again for what you guys are doing. Bill, that kind of segues into, asking you, how do you see the role of community partnerships in the success of the mission at Living Well with Dementia Sisters? And do you have any favorite or partners that you consider to be valuable to your cause and mission?
Yeah, we're lucky because I think that the town of Sisters has more nonprofits per capita than anywhere else in the world. So we have a bunch of good groups that are involved in the town. When I talked about the survey, one of the outcomes of it was we wanted to see who's in the community helping. So we did a summit with caregivers, care partners, medical offices, support groups throughout the Central Oregon area where we are. And we got together and go, all right, what services do you provide? And when we were able to get that group together, everybody goes, oh yeah, we don't do that. We don't do that. We do that. Mm-hmm. So we were able to identify who those partners were on it. So I think some of our key partners that we look at is one of them is Citizens for Community. They work with us a lot of times to help open doors, bridge gaps, get us in front of the people. We've got a great group now, Partners in Care. They were on a town hall meeting we had last Sunday, and they were in there to talk about how to provide in-home care for people that need it. So they were an essential part of that. We bring in legal support. There's a whole quagmire of landmines that you're going to walk through by just trying to get through this whole process. And what have you got in place to make sure that you can legally be responsible for your patients? So it's a real issue looking at that. So we work with an attorney group that helps us on that. And then, something as simple as Angelina's delivery service. And she's just a lady that runs a delivery service in town that will do your grocery shopping, bring you a meal from a restaurant, just something simple like that. Those are the great partners we have that we work with here in Central Oregon. And of course, the major healthcare system, which is St. Charles, they're one of our sponsors for our support groups. They actually provide us the materials and some snacks and stuff for that when we get together for our support groups.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it truly takes a community. Debbie, I want to go back to you. So what's any exciting news or events coming up or initiatives that you guys could share or that you're especially excited about?
Yes. So I'll start with the easy one first and then the big dream last. So upcoming, excuse me, Bill mentioned that last year we did a resource fair, and this year it was very well attended, and the feedback we continue to receive 6 months later, positive feedback from that. And when are we doing it again? So we're doing it, but this year we were doing it in conjunction with a walk. So it's going to be a walk and a resource fair. And we're going to start, we have our school campus here in Sisters. It's all 3 schools together. So large space, easy level paved trail to get those to come out and build awareness and encourage people. That's as part of the mission and the vision of having a healthy community. It's a really easy little walk. So they can go as far as they can. They don't have to do the whole 1.5 miles if they don't want to. But to get them out so they can also feel part of the community and that they're contributing. So people can register for the walk and then attend the fair afterwards. And right now, we anticipate, because we're expanding it, because it was so well received, we'll probably be near 40 to 45 different agencies and vendors that are catering to those older demographics so they can age in place, or just products and services that are going to help them on this path. So that is happening June 21st here in Sisters. And then my dream that Bill and Sandy humor me with, it's really our dream. As Bill said, there is such a dire need for respite. And as you said, Lance, the care partner is the one who shoulders this. When I say regularly, I'm living my wedding vows. I am living for better or for worse in sickness and in health. I didn't think about that 30 years ago, but we're living it today. So in effort to help those care partners continue to maintain their health and feel not isolated, that is the vision for the Dementia Center. And I think a name like Hearth of Sisters, something that is inviting and welcoming, that doesn't label it as a dementia center, but where there's space for activities that are stimulating to those people with dementia, that music, arts, that kind of thing. There's going to be a movement room where we'll have a professional come in and do different kind of movement classes with them. There'll be a space for educational programs that we're delivering. And really to incorporate the youth, to get our middle school, well, any of the students really involved, because as I said earlier, we're a mobile society. So oftentimes grandkids aren't living in the same community as grandparents. And these 2 generations coming together, they have a hoot. It's a great time for them. And so involving them in this space, it gives the care partner and the family some time. It's very common for us, and I feel this myself, and I love my husband to pieces. I have not been in my home alone for more than 10 minutes in over 6 years. And so giving that space where the care partner can go back home and put their feet up and have a cup of coffee or eat, whatever they want, just relax, where it gives them that safe space for their person to come and interact with others. Because that's the social component of the 4 legs that Bill was talking about. We know in order to slow the progression of those with dementia, but also to minimize the risk for us of being diagnosed with dementia, we have to stay socially engaged. We have to stay physically active and move. We have to eat well. And we also have to keep our brain engaged. And so we can do that for this community. And so that's our big 5-year goal.
That's a great goal. I'm sure you will realize that goal. I have no doubt in my mind. Before we close, you guys, first, Bill, where would you like viewers and listeners to go to learn more about Living Well with Dementia Sisters?
Sure. We've got a website. It's LWWDS.com, and they can reach out to us there. We've got a list of our events, programs, and anything that we're doing is basically put on that.
Yeah. And Debbie, Bill, I'll furthermore follow up with, for those listening and they want to get involved or they want to support the mission at Living Well with Dementia Sisters, what's the best way for them to start?
I'll say that they just should show up to one of our events. And that's usually the pivotal thing that will change their lives, is just showing up to an event and sitting down, even if they don't say anything, listen to what's going on, listen to the people in the room talking, and your life will be changed. It's so moving. We had a educational seminar yesterday that everybody was engaged and excited and sad at the same time, but just reach out, go to a meeting, get into a support group. That's the most important thing to do.
Debbie, is anything you want to add?
Sure, thank you. And Bill's right. Getting involved locally, by all means, attending one of the events, and even in your own community, attending a support group, getting involved that way can make a big difference for your life and your family's life. Here, specific to us, we're always looking for great volunteers. We are growing, and so local volunteers, and the beauty is support group facilitators, we have training for them. So we don't expect anybody to come, fully prepared for that. Really, all you need as a facilitator is to be able to listen. That's really the only skill. So not only volunteering, but we're also, again, because of technology, we're looking to start an online support group. So if somebody even wanted to get involved that way, and they don't live here in Sisters or in Oregon and wanted to participate and they're comfortable running a Zoom meeting, that would be a great way. And my information is directly on the website. So when you reach out, you're getting me directly. So again, if anybody goes back to LWWDS.com, they'll see my phone number, they'll see my email. I respond to all of that. So you're actually dealing with a person and not just a talking head. So it's super easy to get involved, and we welcome any kind of involvement.
Yeah, and for those listening, we'll have everything in the show notes. Those watching, it'll be right in the show notes as well. What if somebody's not geographically close to Sisters, Oregon, but maybe listening to the two of you and they believe in your mission or something you shared really resonated with them? Is there ways to be virtually involved?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we do with our one-on-one guidance because of Zoom. That's, I think, the good thing that came from COVID. Well, in you and your services came from COVID. So those are two beautiful things that came from this. But we can, like I say, oftentimes the one-on-one guidance, I'll have a family member here and the rest of the family's in Michigan or India or back east somewhere. So we can still help even though they aren't geographically located here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Any final words or thoughts or tips before we go?
Hug your parents, hug your people in your life, hug your care partners. They need a hug really bad. So take care of them and keep an eye on them.
Yes. Great tip, Bill. How about you, Debbie?
I would just say to all the care partners, to the family, this is not an easy path. You've heard me say this disease, I say, sucks. Be kind to yourself. Be gracious to yourself like you would a friend. And remember that without you, you're not going to be able to take care of your person like you want to. So be good to yourself.
Absolutely. And I'll close with saying, and no, you're not alone. There's others out there going through similar circumstances, and support each other. All right. Well, Debbi McCune and Bill Kelly from Living Well with Dementia Sisters, thank you both so much for just the incredible work you guys are doing there in Sisters, Oregon, and for joining us here today on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity and what you've done. You are making a big difference as well.
Thank you, guys. That means a lot to us. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right,
you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Debbi McCune and Bill Kelly from Living Well with Dementia Sisters for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.